I invite you into a time of quiet reflection, meditation, and prayer. In the quiet of this hour, we recognize that we often fall short of our lofty aspirations to love and to risk our hearts. We seek wholeness, and we forgive ourselves and others for withholding love, forgetting that the source of love is vast and endless. May we open our arms wide and gather in those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who are in pain either in body or in spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. We weep with those who weep, and we rejoice with those who rejoice. May we be kind and compassionate. May we be strong, committed, as we stand in loving solidarity with those who experience oppression and hopelessness. Create in us a hunger for justice. Sustain us in our journey toward wholeness and equity. We are grateful for the lavish abundance in our lives. May we share generously, love recklessly, and notice that spark of divinity in each one we meet. May love guide us, and may the hope inside us lead the way from greed to giving, from scarcity to abundance, and from fear to fearlessness. May we be the willing servants of love. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Well, I don't know about you, but it takes me about 8 weeks after the beginning of a new year to finally remember what year to put on my checks. There is just this big, cloud of, I can't even tell you the century anymore. And I'm finally getting to that point where, okie doke, it is 2012. And that just puts me in the mood for the end of the world. I mean, the Mayan calendar would indicate that 'tis the season to pay the piper as we contemplate the world as we know it, with the abrupt expiration date of winter solstice 2012. I think it is human nature to be fascinated with the end of the world as we know it. In fact, I think probably the first humanoids woke up one day and said, "What a beautiful world. I bet it will end." From time immemorial, there have been prophets of doom crying out that the world would end in their lifetime. Even in biblical times, long before there was a Jesus, much less an anticipated second coming, there was the promise of a cataclysmic end of the world. This is apocalyptic thinking, and it is really good for rounding up converts, and it's really good for business. Just ask Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins, the authors of the astoundingly successful series of books, Left Behind. So I'm going to take just a wild guess and say that maybe only a few of you have had the opportunity to read these books, and so I'd like to tell you a little bit about them. The Left Behind series covers 16 books, and they're all loosely based on the predictions found in the biblical books of Daniel and Revelation. Book 10 of the series debuted at number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And the total sales for the series have surpassed 65 million copies. Spin-off items include movies, graphic novels, CDs, video games, and a teen series called Left Behind, The Kids. Oh my goodness. That is some serious cash in on morbid fascination and fear. The Left Behind series of books are part of a genre called apocalyptic fiction, which is sort of a subgenre of science fiction, sometimes known as speculative fiction. And according to Wikipedia, that bastion of all knowledge, apocalyptic fiction is concerned with the end of civilization, either through nuclear war, plague, or some other cataclysmic event. So had these books been written when I was a teenager, I'd have been all over them. You see, eschatology, the study of the end times, was my thing. It was the 1970s. By the way, I wasn't a UU yet, just in case you're wondering. It was the 1970s. Hal Lindsey had taken the world by storm with his book, The Late Great Planet Earth, and I was singing the music of Larry Norman. Life was filled with guns and war, and everyone got trampled on the floor. I wish we'd all been ready. We believed in a second coming, and we were ready. You can still catch Hal Lindsey on TV occasionally, sitting in a pretend newsroom, giving the headlines for tomorrow's news. And just like the Millerites of 1844, the disappointed ones are recalculating the days and reinterpreting the symbols to discern a much-anticipated second coming and subsequent end of the world. But Christian eschatologists don't have the corner on the end of the world market. There's plenty of gloom and doom to go around. And that sounds flip, but I don't mean it flippantly. Because we have some serious global issues that we may or may not have time to address. So my task today is to open up Pandora's box and urge you to look inside. In addition to the Christian perspective on the end times, there are Native Americans who talk about the changing times, when Earth Mother will do whatever is necessary to rid herself of the parasite known as humanity, and our penchant for polluting and over-resourcing this planet that is our home. Some of these teachers propose a survivalist approach to the future, learning to live off the land as technology is forced to submit to volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, other disasters. Maybe you've seen Al Gore's presentation, An Inconvenient Truth, a compelling argument for us to change our ways and reduce the chances of being the last generation before the end of the world as we know it. I teach communications, and I have been known to show An Inconvenient Truth to my Intro to Communications class, ostensibly as an example of mass media, but mostly because I just want them to watch it. And I am truly disheartened by when the bright young minds of the next generation dismiss Gore's warning as political posturing and opportunism. So my students are alternately fatalistic about their ability to do anything to stem the tide of the coming changes that are the fruits of humanity's irresponsible actions, and convinced that all this talk of global climate change is just a liberal plot to spoil their fun. But whether or not there is a second coming of a long-awaited Messiah, whether or not ancient calendars prophesy the end of time, whether or not humanity has worn out our welcome and is at the cusp of being unceremoniously evicted from our planetary home, and whether or not the polar ice caps will melt and flood significant land masses, I do believe in the end of the world as we know it. I believe the end of the world is long overdue, and I will do anything in my power to help it along. To be continued. So don't you be leaving during the offering, or you will never, ever know how this all ends. Something about how I believe in the end of the world as we know it. I believe it's long overdue and will do whatever I can to bring it along. That's right. So perhaps I should explain myself. Although we often use the words world and earth interchangeably, they are not synonymous. The earth is exactly that, our planet, made up of dirt and rocks and trees and lakes and, Well, you know, you've been there. The earth is a place, and it happens to be our home. And I don't know if we are headed toward the end of the earth, but I truly hope not. I hope we have time to repent and to turn around from the error of our ways and repair the damage before it's too late. But the world. The world is a system, a collection of ideas and agendas and powers and principalities. The end of the world as we know it would be a welcome change. The world as we know it is filled with intolerance and fear and hatred, and I would love to see that world pass away. I look at our world where some people have a lot and some people have nothing, and I would love to see that world pass away and a new world where everyone has enough take its place. I look at our world where fear motivates people to lash out at anyone who is not like them, who does not look or think like them. And I would love to see the end of that world and a new world where tolerance, respect, and understanding cast out fear, take its place. But wishful thinking is not going to happen. If wishful thinking were all that we needed, there are several of us in here who probably would be millions of dollars wealthier, several pounds thinner, and Miss America would finally get her wish for world peace. But even though wishful thinking won't do it, we do need to want it bad enough to do something about it. We need to want to see the end of the world as we know it, so that we can start manifesting a new world, where equal marriage is a civil right for all people, where food and resources that are sent to countries devastated by natural disaster actually reach the people for whom they are intended, and don't get all tied up in red tape and politics. In that brave new world, we'd be singing, "We'll build a land," instead of singing, "Imagine." The secret to creating this new world is not to wait until the end of the world as we know it, but to start creating it now. These two worlds, the world as we know it and the world as we would like to see it, can coexist. One does not have to wait for the one to topple before the new one can be reborn. So to kind of give an example of that, imagine that you're 10 years old and you have a favorite pair of jeans, and you wear those jeans, just until they walk by themselves. And then, it comes time to go back to school, so you put those jeans away. Those are the play clothes for when it's not school. And, the year passes, and it's summer again, and you bring out the jeans going, "They are my favorite jeans, and I can't wait to go out and play," and you put them on, and they shrank. But they didn't shrink. You grew. You changed. So, the jeans are the world as we know it, and you are the world yet to come. You and the jeans existed at the same time, even in the same house, but you grew. And now those jeans, the world as you knew it, no longer fit. And eventually you will get rid of those jeans because they do not serve who you have become. So here comes the best part. We already know how to create the brave new world. We have the recipe, we hold all the cards, whatever metaphor works for you. We know exactly how to bring that new world into being. And we've known it for a really long time. Unlike the Millerites, those folks in 1844 who had to keep rechecking their math and coming up with new formulas because they were sure they had the right answer, they could just come up with the right equation. We have all of the raw materials to manifest hope, not disappointment. Unlike prophets of doom who claim to have the one answer from the one source, We rarely make claims of there being one answer or really of us even having it. We look for multiple answers from many sources. Those sources might include our own direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder, or words and deeds of prophetic women and men which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. We draw upon wisdom from the world's religions to live ethically and spiritually. We believe that we are called to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. And we value reason and the results of science as we attempt to live in balance with the delicate systems of this planet. We do all that, right? Sometimes I think we lose sight of our lofty goals. So those sources I just listed can be found on the pages just before the first song in your hymnal. You don't have to go looking now. You can do your homework later. They are the sources that go hand in hand with our principles. You know, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, and 5 others in the middle of those 2 that we can never remember all the words to. Maybe if our principles and purposes were hidden in some crystal cave that we had to discover Indiana Jones style, with danger lurking in every shadowy corner, maybe then we would value them and recognize them as the recipe for a brave new world, a world of hope and optimism. Or maybe if they were kept in a vault, available only to the initiated ones, prized for their magical properties, and locked away because they were recognized as the potential destroyers of the world as we know it, kind of like a nonfiction Da Vinci Code. Maybe then we would begin to understand the awesome power and potential that these simple words contain. Oh, but silly us. We just print these life-changing ideas on unnumbered pages in a hymnal, and we put them on posters and bookmarks, T-shirts. We leave these words of power lying about where just anybody could pick them up, read them, believe them, live like they're true. Not only that, not only do we not have the sense to keep these powerful ideas under lock and key, but we actually invite people, just any old people, to come into these halls and to claim those words and ideas as their own. I hope we do all that, because sometimes I think we forget that we are the keepers of the new world. We are the keepers of the new world of peace and transforming love. I think we forget because the world as we know it, this world where some people have a lot and some people have nothing, where people hate anyone who doesn't think or act or look like them, this world of intolerance and fear, I think it confuses us with its madness. And we mistake all of that for reality. We forget how powerful love can be, and that we are the messengers, the prophets, sent out to proclaim the end of the world as we know it, and the birth of a new world just around the corner. I will not be a Millerite, one of the people of the great disappointment, but I will be a prophet, proclaiming the end of the world as we know it, and reminding you that we hold the keys to the kingdom, the new world waiting to be born. And as we shake ourselves awake from the dream of disaster and apocalypse, we're going to catch the Spirit. And we're going to get all enthusiastic and optimistic. We'll start telling folks, and we'll invite them to meet with us and talk about these ideas, maybe on, Sunday morning at church. Because we'll begin to recognize that we might be that spark, for them. That light to a new way of thinking. You may be one last spark we all need to light the whole world. I sing a line, then you sing it back to me. You may be one last spark we all need to light the whole world, That was so much fun. I think we should sing some more. It's hymn number 118, This Little Light of Mine.